dangerous just in general, but it can also lead to some fairly easy seeds, honestly, like easy combat-wise.
Yeah, it's you can get pretty lucky. And also routing-wise, because of the very different requirements that can be in dungeons. Looks like we have a pendant, Hera, crystals, desert, and eastern.
We got Mudman right out of the gates. That's always a good sign. It's a sprite that the Randomizer really likes.
Yeah, it's up.
Oh, never mind. Both of our runners are actually heading up towards the lumberjack check, getting called a jerk, getting a little bit of petty.
We found 5 rupees so far. Well, in addition to the 20 in the sank chest.
I'm actually a bit surprised that both of our runners are heading towards lumberjack. I feel like it's kind of fallen out of vogue.
Yeah,
year.
It seems like people tend to wait until they have strong reason to check it, whether they have Aghanim access already or they have boots. But in this case, because it's all dungeons, I don't know, maybe it makes sense to route it in early.
Looks like our bush crab prize isn't that great today, but we do get a heart container right off the bat, which could be important, special. we get a jellyfish as a bush crab or a bush. But yeah, heart containers early on is pretty important in Randomizer, just because you could come up against like Lionels or something in a kill room.
Frame in chat pointing out that they might have routed in Aghanim for the poultry, which kind of makes sense. Especially in Randomizer, maybe they're looking for bomb drops or rupees.
I mean, I like to do it just for like the wombo combo of bush crab, poultry, and then the lumberjack check. We also get the blue mail in the forest thief area, which adds some more to our survival.
Yeah, any safety, real nice. I mean, again, normal mode, so hopefully it's not gonna be too bad, but also Randomizer. It's really the enemies that are like not boss enemies are usually the ones that seem to get you an Randomizer.
So Dracarys is taking this fish, and it's not for swag. It's to turn it into the bottle vendor to get some. I don't know if this is just money or if he drops some bombs and stuff as well for.
You do get an assortment of items, but what I'm not sure is if it's always the same assortment, or if it's randomized, or if it's like the tree pull and it's seeded. I'm not really.
Looks like we get, wow, a full magic and 8 bombs. That's it's not bad.
Yeah, that's pretty great. So he did miss the checking the library, although he could always come back down and route that in later. But I don't think anything was there. I missed it on Kohrek's side.
Yeah, same. I mean, it's not that big of a time waste to do that. And we get half magic, so that full magic is kind of useless now.
And a power glove.
Yeah, that's pretty useful. It'll help us get up to the mountain eventually. We get the flippers here in the backside of Blind's hut. That will let us get some light world checks that couldn't get otherwise.
They got an easy mode chicken hut here. Randomizer, that is often a room, a check that can kill you quite easily. Probably happy to see those potobos there.
It's kind of a blue seed so far. It looks like we found a blue boomerang in addition to our blue flippers and blue mail. And blue bombs, I guess. And our first bottle here in the well.
You just need like a cane and a mirror to round out the color-coded and ice.
Well, we could be seeing a lot of Trinexes today, so yeah, the ice rod would be nice to see sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that's the least we can do. If we hope for some Trinexes on these runners, the least we can do is give them some calm blessing towards an ice rod.
Alright, we're gonna see what the Sick Kid has for us today with that early bottle. Oh, silver arrow. That's that's something.
Yeah.
So silver arrows are good, but they're not good just yet. I do like seeing the bottle early on, just so we can actually get this check. It's pretty easy to forget about the bottle if you find it like way before you enter Kakariko for the first time.
Yeah, it is nice not to have to come back here later.
And if we ever find a bow, those silver arrows are going to make a lot of the bosses a lot easier. Specifically, Armos Knights and Helmosaur and Vitreous.
Yeah, Vidi is huge. Although in Randomizer, it's really interesting because so many of the bosses are designed around the room that they're in, and that's not an exception with Vidi having a really weak blind spot kind of behind him and also on the sides of him that is normally kind of covered by the goo. Still, though, having silver arrows would make that fight a lot faster and a lot safer.
Yeah, some of the bosses are kind of neutered if you find them in other spots, and some of the bosses are kind of a real pain if you find them in some of those spots. For instance, pretty much anything in Mothula's room. Although I don't think the spikes go.
Yeah, because the spikes could have overridden. They can do damage, and so I think they removed them in some rooms. But another interesting one is what happens at the top of Tower Para, or Moldorm 2.
One of my other favorite things is in Ganon's Tower, the rooms, the Ice Armos room and the Moldorm 2 room, or not Moldorm 2, Landmolas 2. If you find Argus there and you beat the first phase, aka you kill all the puffs, the door just opens, and you can just walk through.
Yeah, there's a couple of bosses like that are basically any like multi-phase boss, it seems. I'm not exactly sure which bosses. Kohrek going to Flipper in this dangerous water area, checking some Flipper's location, while Dracarys does maybe kind of a more traditional thing to Mini Moldorm first.
Oh, this is an easy room. I mean, I guess it's less easy when you have to use bombs, but
yeah, especially when you just drop a bomb down the hole. I don't think he can finish the room now. Yeah, he's got to leave.
Well, he will have a bomb for when he decides to go over to the Ice Rod Cave, but it looks like he'll have to come back later, either with more bombs or something else to kill those popos.
Yeah, the best he could have hoped for there is that they would have dropped a bomb, or the stun drop is a bomb, which I don't think we've seen yet.
Oh, looks like he's gonna buy some bombs, maybe just make his way right back to Mini Moldorm Cave, or I guess we should say regular-sized Popo Cave. No, looks like he's heading over towards the Hobo and probably. Oh, we got a red mill from the dig spot. That's great. So survivability isn't really a big deal just yet. I mean, 5 hearts isn't a ton, but red mail isn't as good as blue mail, at least in terms of the step from green to blue and blue to red. But it's worth it.
Getting some fetch quest item locations or some fetch quest finds out of the way, seeing the mushroom on the Hylia Island and now the shovel on the hook. It's always nice to find those early because it becomes a lot easier to route them in if you have more options.
This is actually, I know some runners do this. They like to skip out on checking the swamp area, or like the dam, until they're heading over towards Desert Palace. But in this case, if Dracarys had done this before heading to Mini Moldorm Cave, he could have just cleared it because we found our first sword in there.
Yeah, so gonna lose a little bit of efficiency because of that. I think, yeah, and it's also like to maybe incentivize going to Agana, because it can be such an easy location to isolate, but if you kind of leave the dam, then you kind of give yourself an excuse to come back over to the Agana area.
Wow, that's some interesting game knowledge by Dracarys. I didn't know this. Apparently if you throw a bomb at one of those beetle enemies that I don't know the names of, it'll stun them.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's interesting to know, especially in game modes like hard or expert, where it might be more difficult or impossible to stun enemies with normal stun items. You can still stun beetles with bombs.
Yeah. So Dracarys looks like he's heading up towards the Zora area, which, I mean, not a bad idea. And it looks like Agana not paying off today, just giving us another big 20 for our collection. And the early flippers definitely leads you here. Maybe not this room in particular, but Zora and... although Zora was open with the gloves, but also the ledge up here. Oh, our second bottle is on the Zora ledge. Unfortunately, we already know what the sick kid has. I don't know. It might be worth picking up. It's not a huge time investment.
Yeah, it could be. Then you have to find something to fill it with, I guess. Oh, lamp and mini Moldorm cave Kohrek picks up. So that unlocks a couple of items up Death Mountain anyway.
Let's see what Zora has. 2 items to get here, and it's just a little bit of...
And Dracarys opts not to take the bottle.
Who could have seen that coming?
But you're right, though. I mean, low hearts, even with red mail, I mean, you never know, right? Like, you might need that safety. And taking a death can be a lot more expensive than something like, I'm just going to walk over to Zora Ledge while I'm here.
Yep, Dracarys heading back down to Mini Moldorm Cave. Unfortunately, still does not have a sword to make it easy on him, so he's got to be pretty precise with his bombs. Though I think he only needs about 4 of them. So that's going to be a bit aggravating once he checks the dam and realizes what he could have had.
Yeah, for sure. Especially, oh man, a bomb drop in the potable pool. So if he had kind of just killed the rest of the potobos, he might have got the bomb he needed to finish the room the first time too.
Alright, so where do you go from here? I mean, the lamp gets you up the mountain, but it also gets you deep into Eastern Palace, logically speaking. This is Randomizer, so the boss of Eastern Palace is not necessarily blocked off by... Or I guess it's not ever blocked off by the bow. It might be Trinex, but, you know.
Yeah, so that what normally prevents you from not going there without the bow, of course, is that red Igor, but that's not going to be there, and red Igors will never be in rooms that you, or any enemy that requires a bow to kill will never be in a room that you need to kill all the enemies into. So the only thing that actually the bow is required for an Randomizer is the statue, shooting the statue in pod. But yeah, so that can be an interesting play, especially now they have the lamp that puts 2 more items into logic that otherwise might not be in logic quite yet. But Dracarys looks like he's going for the dam pull, then Agana play. So he lost a bit of time by maybe not picking up the sword right away and having to do this Podobo room a couple times. But if there's something cool here, he could just make up all that time loss.
Yeah, unfortunately, we know it's not going to pay off. He'll get his eyes on the desert ledge, which I did not see on Kohrek's screen. But we do not have the book or any other way into desert just yet. I think Eastern's probably our best bet after this.
Yeah. Oh, my bad. I didn't realize Kohrek had checked it. I must have been. Yeah, but you've got Sahasra with 3 items, Eastern with 3 more that we could potentially finish. And then there's, of course, 3 more up Death Mountain. Kohrek going to escape, though, looks like. And Uncle.
Yeah, this is a scary bit in open mode. Some runners just never want to come here, ever. Especially going downstairs in the castle, but now that we have a sword, we can actually make that pretty easy for us. I mean, it is Randomizer, so it can be like a million Lionels downstairs, but... Actually, if they are Lionels, I don't think we can kill them yet, can't we?
Oh yeah, you're right. We have no way of damaging them. We just have to dodge.
And if they're in a kill room, or if they drop a key or something. Actually, do the key enemies ever get randomized? I forget.
Yeah, the key enemies are randomized, but yeah, I'm not actually sure if they can be Lionels or not, or if the logic takes that into account, the fact that only certain weapons can kill that. PKR letting us know in chat that the Randomizer purposely makes all kill room enemies defeatable with minimum equipment, so that makes sense.
Okay.
So minimum equipment I think would be defined as bombs. You must, because that's a weapon you're always guaranteed. So unless the enemy is killable with bombs, it won't be a key enemy. That makes sense.
So far, the downstairs of the castle isn't very dangerous. We got some common rats. There's a bunny that was already knocked over, and a mini Moldworm here, holding a small key. Looks like Kohrek needs to go pick that up again, though.
Oh man, I think he exited the room slightly too fast. Because it is possible to screen transition while the key is still heading towards you. That's the total NMG strat. But if you go too fast, then you leave the key behind.
And it's just a Popo here with the big key. And with the lamp in hand, we can also visit the dark room, but Kohrek is probably just going to visit the backside first. And if he finds a small key there, he'll be able to check that chest. And if he doesn't, we know that it does contain the small key.
I thought I saw one of the runners at least check the backside, so I want to say that they can deduce now that it is this.
Maybe. I did not notice anybody doing it. But
I think it might have been Kohrek, but it was after they picked up the power gloves, so they save and quit back to the sink to do.
Kohrek is heading up the mountain. Not the most optimal route in terms of items, because I think there's only one item we can get from the old man, and one item we can get in the Spectacle Rock Cave, and one item we can see on top of Spectacle Rock. But it does also give us a location we can go to after we save and quit.
Yeah, you do lose a little bit of routing efficiency, like if you could have done everything up on the mountain at once. But yeah, that's the good news, is that save and quit spot kind of makes up a little bit for the routing inefficiency in terms of like it's not going to be that much time that you're losing, which is so. I agree with you. It is a bit of a gamble, I think, to come here first rather than going to Eastern in this case. But maybe he's hoping he's going to get something that's going to help him in the dungeon, or that's going to allow him to go somewhere else entirely.
We're getting our first Sahasrara Hut check here with varying denominations of rupees. And sight unseen, we see
yeah, that hammer. What a great item to find in terms of killing enemies, doing class 3 damage, but could be required. Well, not necessarily required for a boss fight, but it could be very helpful on boss fight.
Yep, and we also get a hint for Super Metroid Randomizer about the spring. So that'll be useful for when these players get to the Super Metroid segment of this randomizer. Lionel guarding the entrance here of Eastern Palace.
Oh man.
He's doing a good job.
Yeah, what a terrible pattern.
And Skull Woods is our green pendant. Interesting. This is possible still to be a God Eastern Palace, where you don't have to check the right side. We did find bombs as our first item of 3.
So it'll be interesting to see what Dracarys gets here in Eastern. We know it's got to have some kind of progression at this point, but if it's a Moon Pearl, then that means Dracarys and Kohrek are just pretty much neck and neck. However, if it's something like a sword that's the progression, so that they go to Aghanim for their Dark World access to get the Moon Pearl or something, that could make it harder for Dracarys to route in that hammer up on Death Mountain, which wouldn't be good news for them.
Yeah, Dracarys probably wants to find not a whole lot until he does need that hammer, most likely to get into the Dark World. The play to go up the mountain, I can see Dracarys not wanting to do that for a long time if he finds any amount of progression up here. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, odds are it is a pearl, so hopefully this will stay pretty close. But yeah, that could be bad.
We get a hint for the left side of Misery Mire, the Moon Pearl in Eastern Palace. Anyway, we get the hint for the left side of Misery Mire. There's nothing good there.
It's really nice to know. Saves a lot of time. Of course, both runners are going to get that hint. Looks like now. So did we saw 2 items here, right? Or did we see 3?
I believe we saw 2. Otherwise, Dracarys wouldn't be going here.
Oh, good point.
Yeah, we just found bombs and the moon. So we do have Dark World access now. At least Kohrek does. But the good thing is for Dracarys is that he won't have many other places to go than up the mountain.
Yeah, unless, I mean, there's still one more item left in Eastern. If it is a progressive item, again, like a Master Sword, he could decide to do an early Aga play, since it is all dungeons. Or a book, or anything that is progressive, I think, that leads him away from the hammer. But it's just... So, good news for Dracarys. And for everybody in chat, because we all want a close race.
Yeah, the dream is to never have to do Aghanim until, like, right after Aga 2. Or, sorry, the Aga Tower, right after Aga 2, because you can just typically mirror... I mean, you will always have the mirror in all dungeons at that point. You can just mirror after Aga 2, and then head into Aga Tower, and just do that, and then run right into the hole that Ganon creates. And you're all set.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. And then, of course, you know, that also means you're going to have, like, a much better weapon layout and can do the rooms much... About to get a look at who our first bosses of Eastern Palace.
I'm hoping it's Trinix. Okay.
Hey, it's one we can beat.
It is one we can beat. It's not as easy as Blind typically is, because you don't get the like the same pattern than if you just activate the fight normally.
Yeah, Blind being a scripted fight. But it looks like Dracarys does it with only 3 hits, which is pretty impressive for the non-scripted Blind.
Yep, and now Blind pretty much has to go up the mountain. I don't think there's much else he hasn't done.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that might be everything so far that is available to Dracarys. Now it's Kohrek's turn.
So Kohrek does have a little bit of an advantage going into the Dark World here. I guess the biggest question now is, where do you go into the Dark World to, you know, achieve the best route? I mean, do you want to just go directly towards Hype Cave? Do you want to just, you know, head it towards Skull Woods and Dark Kakariko Village. The Dark World is your oyster, as it were.
Yeah, lots of interesting ways that you can route through that, especially with such like little items. We basically have only the progressives we need to just get in the Dark World. Other than the sword, we have like nothing else that's really leading us in any particular direction or is helpful for anything in particular. So that's always interesting because what tends to happen then is you start thinking like, well, where do I not want to go? Where do I want to wait until I have a better item to go there? Do I want to avoid Village of Outcasts before I have Mitts and a Mire, or do I want to avoid Pod until I have everything I need to defeat that dungeon, which in this case would be Hammer and Bow still?
Yeah, I mean, I think any route works equally well unless you have a certain item setup. Like if you have the Mire, I think starting in the Village of Outcasts is best, just because then you can a Mire and Mitts, I guess, because then you can just grab, you know, the purple chest, the dwarves, the south of the Haunted Grove cave, Stump Kid, and then Hook or Hype Cave, and do all of that all in one go.
Yeah, that's the dream route for sure. So it could be interesting, like Kohrek deciding to go Hype Cave first, which wasn't a super hype cave, but that could be part of their thinking. Like, if I can only get those Mitts and Mire, that'd make that route super nice. We'll see if he goes right or left here. We saw the pendant in the map check. Looks like green pendant Skullwoods, normal pendant Thieves Town, red crystal Misery Mire, and also Swamp Palace.
Yep, so Kohrek heading to the right, he's gonna be checking the pyramid and maybe even catfish before proceeding onward.
I am
checking catfish.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this route, particularly if he goes up to catfish. Catfish being a pretty dang early sphere location in most seeds, but often one that gets left till very late, like sometimes post hour and a half, because it's so easy to isolate.
Yeah, especially in this case where I think both of our runners did check all of the Zora area, so you're not getting any value by, you know, combining the Zora check with catfish. That's a mean place for a spike.
Yeah, I guess you just have to damage through that. Like, if this is OHKO, too bad.
Yeah, just get a fairy.
or a caper burner or something.
Kohrek sending that big spike trap off on a wild goose chase. And it looks like Dracarys is doing the same thing. I'm wondering if he's going to also be going up to catfish, or if he's just going to head into Palace of Darkness.
Yeah, I want to say that this route, you know, Hype Cave, Pyramid Ledge, Catfish is becoming a bit more vogue, maybe. Look out for it in 2019, folks. It's the next big thing.
Catfish paying off. He's like, you know what? Leave me alone and I'll give you the sword to defeat evil.
Wow. So King Arthur getting the Master Sword from the Catfish in the Lake. But Dracarys is going to miss out on that. So they did straight to Pod. Now, I can't remember if he has a potion in a bottle. Like if he could do... Well, he doesn't need the bottle glitch. Never mind. This is Randomizer. Never mind.
Yeah, but we still need a bow to finish the dungeon, as you were saying earlier.
Yeah.
You know, I think I'd rather have the Lady in the Lake rather than just a random fish, but that's just me.
Yeah, it's all we get, unfortunately, in Hyrule.
I think one thing that's worth mentioning, even though both of our owners have red mail now, is that I think if you see rats in the Dark World, they have the same stats as the buzz enemies that you find in Palace of Darkness. They will do 2 hearts with green mail. And vice versa, if you see the buzz enemies in the light world, I'm pretty sure they're just rats.
Well, that's interesting. I didn't know that. So yeah, it looks like, you know, I was talking earlier about how you're kind of making the decision about what do I want to do more efficiently potentially later? And Dracarys deciding to go to pod first, maybe, again, to hope he gets that Myths and Mire, like you were saying, so he can have a more efficient Village of Outcasts, while Kohrek going the other direction after getting his Master Sword. Deciding to come into Skullwoods first for the couple of items he can check here without the fire.
Yeah. It's interesting to see how these routes have diverged after being fairly consistent with each other. The boots are in
Ooh.
paradox.
That is a great hint. I mean, as soon as they get access over there, which at this point is either going to be a Mire or a hookshot, then I'm expect to see Dracarys beeline it up there.
Yeah. So here's the thing, though. Dracarys just also showed off something interesting about this game, is that Hinoxes, while having a ton of HP, die in one hit to the very things they toss around. AKA bomb.
Yeah, they can't handle their own medicine.
I don't know if that was the second or first item we found, or Kohrek found in Skullwoods, but we did find one of the items in the 10-pack of bombs, the one that was added with the randomized swords update.
Yeah, I believe that was the first item, because all they've checked otherwise is the right side in this part of the dungeon, which had a dungeon item, like a map or something, I forget, or a key. I think it was. Hey!
All right, so Cape is our second item in Skullwoods, and Kohrek can leave right now because he won't have to come back until later once he gets the fire rod.
Yeah, so definitely gonna expect him to go check Bumper Ledge after this. He's probably planning on doing that anyway after this route, but now he can actually get the item if it's. But I think Cape, any invincibility item, whether it's Cape or Burna, is just such a great find in Enemy. It allows you to just skip rooms that could otherwise cause you tons of trouble.
Yep, Kohrek heading up, gonna be checking what's on the Bumper Cave ledge. And today we have just a big... Not really worth going out of your way for.
So I missed the death that happened on Dracarys' side. It might have been a death warp / heal, or it could have just been interesting enemies that were down there.
Yeah. Palace of Darkness can be kind of treacherous. There's certain rooms that have quite a few enemies in them.
And this being one of the interesting rooms, what happens here on the breakable bridge can be really interesting in Randomizer. Oh, Pink Kitty Rose saying that he died to reset the orange-blue switch blocks. That is really interesting. So, yeah, he had to do that to reset them. He could have done a couple other things, like hopped down and thrown bombs at it, but maybe it wasn't quite as cool. I don't think the blue boomerang could reach from the right side, right?
I don't believe so. Dracarys having a bit of trouble here with the hammer yump. Getting pelted by a red Trident guard. And the Cane of Samaria here in the chest game. So that'll come in handy when we have to finish Misery Mire, which is one of our 2 important crystals. Also, getting into and doing anything in Turtle Rock.
Yeah, that's nice to see that early. Although it doesn't immediately open up anything, it's kind of a relief, I guess, to have it. I didn't see why Dracarys is doing the bomb jump, though. He might be trying to save the key so he doesn't have to check the vanilla big key chest. But with the length of that bomb jump setup, it might be kind of a wash anyway in terms of time save. But no, he looks like he's exiting out of the room and spending the key regardless.
Yeah, it's just a minor time save. If you have the big key, you can just, do that room backwards and then not have to worry about a death warp or anything in that room.
Oh, right, because he doesn't have Mire, so he would have had the death warp. That makes a lot more sense than what I was saying.
There are a ton of Hyrule guards here in Thieves Town. I don't know why there are guards in a Thieves hideout, but Sure. Shouldn't they be arresting the thieves?
Yeah, that is a lot of lag. And Dracarys, I think, getting nothing in this early pod play, which is really unfortunate. Okay, here's that cape coming in handy.
Yeah, an interesting thing about Thieves Town in Randomizer is you do not need to actually go find the fake princess, aka Blind. You can just go in that room, and the boss is there.
Yeah, looks like Kohrek's gonna do that.
It's Helmasaur. Good thing we have the hammer.
Yeah, Master Sword makes this nice too if you don't want to do hammer strats. Although, pretty sure Kohrek does NMG, so I wouldn't be surprised if he just opts to use hammer strats.
I did like the fact that Kohrek waited until the fireball had spawned to break or deal the final hit on the mask, because that actually makes the fireball disappear, and then you get a chance to get some hits in.
Yeah, nice job on that, and nice fight. Picks up a item from the dungeon for his troubles. I haven't been counting items, so I don't know how many are left in the back, but if there's not many, Kohrek may decide to just skip it, because it's very time-consuming to go back there. We shall see.
So Dracarys is going to be evening up on items a little bit, spending some time here in Skullwoods. Kohrek is going back into Thieves Town to find the last few items. So I think with the key in hand and a hammer, we can check literally everything in here. And there's also a hint tile upstairs if either of them wanted to go check that. Oh, never mind. The key was for that door.
Oh yeah, the key that he took on his way up to Blind.
Also get some ghost enemies in this room. Ghost Popo and Ghost Pingu. Ghost Lionels. You know, the scariest thing you could ever think of. And then make it a ghost.
You mean Ghost Triple Dip Turtle Rock?
Wow, I like that spike in the wall. A heart container requires the book.
Oh, that's interesting.
So that, I guess, calls out Desert Palace and also the tablets.
Well, this is the thing that I think is interesting about the hint system, is that it has to apply to all game modes.
Sorry, there's a cameo by the Cannoneers. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, the best enemy in the game, unfortunately, often not placed in the location where they actually are dangerous, but yeah, so because the hints must apply to all game locations, the book is not always going to be required for desert, even in open mode. So I think that means, if I'm not incorrect, that it's only the Ether and Bombos tablet that can refer to. Which does make that hint just slightly more valuable, because that means if you check Bombos Medallion first, for example, then you know, oh great, I don't have to check Ether now.
I must admit, I never read up on the hint system. I just figured since inverted mode is considered, and the book is the only way to get into desert in inverted mode, that it would be considered in that hint.
Yeah, it's definitely weird. I mean, it's good to know that, especially for things like Turtle Rock, where you might think, oh well, that's hammer locked, you know, in open mode. But you have to think about it in like stuff like inverted, where it's not. So it's like if it's ever not true in one game mode, they want to include it. But also, some things just aren't included. Like if it says requires the gloves, it only refers to Spike Cave, even though there are places on the right side of Ice Palace that always do require gloves. So it's a little inconsistent currently.
Yep. So Kohrek is going to be able to do a bit more Dark World clearing. Dracarys is probably going to be heading into Thieves Town right about now. I don't know what else Kohrek has to do other than dig game here, Stump Kid, and I think that's it.
Yeah, we got to find progressive in one of these couple. There we go.
Well, that adds another check right in this little circuit. It's actually a really good place to find the mirror.
Yeah, especially because if this is our logical very next bit of progression that will continue us moving forward, that means that what they're supposed to do next is go up Death Mountain, Tower of Hera east side Death Mountain route, which is good for Kohrek because he doesn't have Dracarys' hint about the boots, so that will kind of equalize that a little bit.
Yeah, it could also, with the flippers in play. Oh, hook shot too.
Oh my
Wow.
god.
Flippers and a hook shot and a mirror. I wonder where you go. And the
Yeah.
hammer.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, this will be really cool to see because Dracarys has that hint and Kohrek doesn't. So does Dracarys immediately just go up and get their boots before Swamp, or do they do Swamp while they're here in the dark?
I was going to talk a little bit about how this is a kind of a potential troll in waiting, by opening up East Death Mountain. And the place you needed to go to was a swamp palace you couldn't clear, but hey, you can just clear it.
Yeah, that's really nice placement for that. So that hookshot / mirror opening up, the 6 items here, plus however many is up on Death Mountain, like 11 or something like that. So Seed opening up a bit, still want to see those mitts for much more opening. One interesting thing about getting the boots right away is Swamp Palace is a great dungeon to have the boots in. You just go, you lose so much speed and time because of how slowly you walk through the shallow water that you can make up by dash.
Oh. Was that the big key hint or small key hint in Tower of Hera?
I wasn't positive, but it did look like Tower of Hera key, which I think that's what it said. So I think that's the small key.
That's a good hint. It's just confirmation that you don't need to get a cup of coffee in the middle of your run.
Yeah, I don't have to worry about tile room.
And the flute inside of Swamp Palace. So yeah, it looks like Swamp was the way to go, especially for Kohrek, because now he doesn't have to take the somewhat lengthy walk up the mountain. He can just fly up there.
Yeah, although he did get the save and quit spot at the old man. But yeah, definitely a required item as well. They're going to need that to get into Misery Mire.
Oh, right. Both of them went up the mountain. Never mind.
Yeah, I missed that too, but we weren't looking because we had already seen it.
Yeah, and the hammer was up there, so there's literally no way you could be here without being up the mountain already.
Yeah.
Oh well, it'll save a little bit of time. This is all dungeons, so we do know we need the flute no matter what. So in terms of items, I mean, it's all dungeons, so there's a lot of items we need. We know that boots are going to be relatively free, so that's not like a wild card or anything, like it can be in some other seeds, but we haven't seen either rod yet, we haven't seen the bow. We have 0 medallions, and we'll need at least one of them. Maybe even all 3 if we're that unlucky. We need the mitts. And I guess that's it.
I didn't hear if you said fire rod.
Yeah, we didn't see both. We need both rods.
Well, we definitely need the fire rod, but I mean statistically, I think I actually don't know the probability, but I would bet that it's more likely than not we will need the ice rod. But I'm not good with that, so.
I mean, I'm just operating under the assumption that we are going to be seeing 5 Trinexes.
Yeah, it depends on if this is a Dracarys seed or a Ruble seed. We'll see.
And there's the wrong cane and a sword upgrade. That's really good. Because pretty much no matter what, unless it's Armos, that was a pretty nice upgrade to our offensive capabilities.
Yeah, also could be good news for Dracarys, who skipped out on that sword upgrade on Catfish, because at least he'll find the Master Sword along the way. So Dracarys did the same thing that Kohrek did, went back to check these last couple of items in the back of Thieves Town, now taking a Death Warp out so he can continue his loop, which he has to do at this point. There's literally nothing else open to him, I believe.
We get a 4-eyed Moldorm today. Confirmation that Moldorm is actually a nerd. And I wasn't counting items, but I think we're missing at least 1 or 2.
Yeah, I missed that as well, to be honest. Maybe we'll get to see a repeat on Dracarys' side if Kohrek doesn't go right back in. But yeah, he's going in back in.
There's at least 1 because we did find the compass, and I'm pretty sure we found the mirror, the map a while back as well. But this could all very well just be a troll and just have a couple big 20s or maybe even a piece of heart on the left side.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing too to think about. The potential for Dracarys to take a different route is that they might get a couple of hints in Tower of Hera that could tell them whether or not to do left sides.
The especially annoying thing about this is the fact that it looks like the big key is going to be on the left side as well. So not only do we have to do left side, but we have to do left side and then walk all the way back.
Unless big key locks itself.
That is true. But I want maximum karma for the monster that skips left side Swamp Palace.
All right, moment of truth. Dracarys. Yep, he will save and quit and do Death Mountain, looks like. So Dracarys seems to be a bit behind if you compare where he's at in the dungeon. He's going to make up some of that time now by going Death Mountain, getting his boots. But it all comes down to where the bow is, because if Kohrek has to, or ends up, double dipping Pod as well, then it'll just be like pretty much evened up at that point. And Dracarys may even have a lead for getting these boots early.
Yeah, I mean, boots definitely help a bit in Swamp Palace, as you were saying. Walking on the water is pretty slow. I mean, running on the water is slower than running on not water, but it's still pretty fast. Alright, 1 more item here in the dungeon. Do we have to go all the way back to the big chest, though? No.
That's kind of kind. And Dracarys getting Titan's Mitts in Paradox Cave, so at least 2 interesting items here, because we know the boots will be here too.
Yeah, that's especially great for Dracarys, because he's going to be able to essentially full clear this East Death Mountain, except for the Ether Tablet, and I mean, he can't even get it to Turtle Rock no matter what.
Yeah, unless he were to find a fortunate a medallion in one of these chests. But looks like that's it.
Dracarys was so excited about the boots, he almost didn't pick them up.
Opting to... It looks like he's going to go into the Dark World and then come up through Super... And Kohrek picking up the mushroom, so going to do that check now. He just save and quit, so we might see a reset if he doesn't like the item, so he can fake powder later, because he has the cane.
I'm surprised he didn't just activate the flute first.
Yeah, and make this trip quite a bit quicker, because he's going to activate it eventually anyway. Good point. Although, I guess if he wants to hard reset, or soft reset, then he would also lose the flute activation.
Yeah, well, I would probably have just activated the flute, saved and quit. You know, started at the mountain or whatever, or even Link's house, and then just, you know, fluting here. and
Oh
turn
yeah,
into a mushroom.
that would have been smart.
Oh, Bombos Medallion. You know what that does for us? Once Kohrek goes up the...
It means he can go to Ice Palace without Fire Rod.
Yep, and we need Ether for Turtle Rock today.
Oh,
So
your dream could be alive if only Misery Mire is Quake, then it could be all 3 medallions required. 33% chance at this point.
there's our Ice Rod. First item here in Hookshot. So that's gonna come in handy just in case we run into, maybe 6 Trinexes.
Yeah, maybe the runners will hate us a little bit less for calm cursing them.
Ooh,
and that looked like a
there's the other
rod.
rod.
Wow, that is a lot of progressive. So at this point, all they're missing is medallions and a bow, I believe.
Yep. Now we are like 100% Trinex proofed on this seed. Which is good because we have at least 7 more Trinexes to see this seed.
So with those mitts, a few more locations being opened up, including the Misery Mire area, Ice Palace. We're about to check Tower of Hera, get our first check of that in. Dracarys still needs to make up Ice Palace. Or excuse me, Swamp Palace.
Yeah, and Kohrek's going to be pretty much in the same situation for the most part. We get some old news on... Well, not old news for Dracarys, but we already know where that cane is.
Yeah, one more hint here, one more possibility to get a hint about left side swamp for Dracarys before he may decide to go back to Swamp Palace and do that now.
So, Dracarys displaying a bit of Randomizer knowledge here, in that those... I don't know what these skittering enemies are called, but even when they're not visible, they are vulnerable to certain attacks. For instance, the hook shot.
Ooh, you know what? Something sharp requires the hook shot. Okay, well that's probably the tempered sword. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say this is a fairly well-defended Tower of Hera. We've seen a few Lionels so far. And yeah, probably a sword in the back half of Swamp Palace is what that hint is referring to. There have been times where the hint has referred to multiple things, or there are multiple things that would fill that criteria. Oh! There's some Helmosaur legs.
Yeah, interesting thing about the loadout that they have right now is I believe that all bosses are now beatable in some fashion. So they don't have to worry anymore about whether or not they have the right items for the fight. They just have to be able to complete it. Dracarys going for bomb strats because Helma was over the pit there.
Yeah, he really likes hanging out there, doesn't he? He breaks the mask. Unfortunately, he's not in a very good position. This is actually a very annoying arena to fight Helmosaur in, especially when you only have Fighter Sword. And no bow.
Yeah, the bow would make this fight significantly easier. Dracarys was doing hammer strats, but looks like he got kind of irritated by that and now is going for fighter spin.
He's still trying it. I mean, it's probably the best bet. And he takes Helmosaur down. Thankfully does not fall in the hole. That'd be no bueno. Getting our second pendant. This is all dungeons, so this is not a waste. This is something we need to do regardless.
And that just reminded me that Skullwoods is now doable with that fire rod as well. So he could Go there, do Skullwoods, blind pull Ped. There's a lot of options right now. It looks like he's going to start with a Spike Cave check.
Did Dracarys skip out on Spiral Cave?
Oh, he might have.
I did not. I don't recall seeing him go through it.
I think you're right. I don't think he did, because he picked up the Fire Rod and then hopped down from the Dark World, as Kohrek might just be about to do to go over to Tark.
Yeah, this is a somewhat risky play. I mean, we found a lot of progression recently, so it's less risky than, if we had found nothing. But, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to see how...
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, we're going to see how much that might hurt Dracarys in just a moment here with Kohrek check.
Well, this Spiral Cave does not want you to be dashing through it. The enemies that you bonk off of, and... Okay, just 10 arrows here in Spiral Cave.
So it looks like Dracarys is doing the Swamp Palace route that Kohrek did before, maybe also going to get their Mushroom afterward. Although they could also go like Mushroom and then Ice Palace as well.
I'm surprised that Kohrek is not doing Tower of Terror just yet.
Ooh, yeah, just kind of left that behind. I guess they figure, well, since I've done Spiral Cave, it's just as fast to go back up from the Old Man as it is to walk back up on the east side to get to Tower of Hera.
Well, this did have the potential to be a all 3 medallion required seed, but unfortunately we did find the Fire Rod, even though we need Ether and Quake to get into Misery Mire and Turtle Rock.
Yeah, sorry about that Fire Rod location, that it crushed your hopes and dreams.
At least we know we'll be finding all 3 medallions.
Oh, chat pointing out that it could be a reason that Dracarys came to Swamp Palace is because he knows that there's a sword here. Getting the Western Wing Swamp Palace hit in Desert Palace.
Yeah, that's a good hint. It's, it would have been a lot nicer if we had the ability to come here before entering Swamp Palace.
Yeah, Dracarys didn't have that option either until just now, of course, picking up his flute in that first chest in Swamp Palace. They would have needed to have found the book somewhere, I guess, to be able to have avoided that via the hint. But we'll see. I mean, he could decide to not check left, but with 2 items on left side swamp, I feel like that's not something that you might see normally, unless you felt like you had to gamble for some reason to get ahead of your opponent.
Alright, so Kohrek going to be finishing up Desert Palace here. It is a crystal, but again, this is all dungeons, so it's required no matter what. And he does have, both rods, half magic, and tempered sword to make this really easy.
Yeah, that could have been a nasty room otherwise. Dracarys, yeah, I'm just thinking, like, if he would gamble in this... Oh my god, look.
Wow.
I can feel the lag from here. Don't press a diagonal. Don't press any diagonals. I think even if you did, it wouldn't matter. I think he was already at half frame rate, which is the lowest that you can go via the lag on a Super Nintendo game. Oh, it's the same frame rate. I don't mean to say half frame rate, but you know what I mean. Half speed, basically, on everything.
Right. And we have a Cold Stare. And we have the tools to beat him.
Putting that Bombos to use anyway, even if it's not quite required this seed.
Yeah, even with half magic, it's nice to have... Well, he's not even bothering with the fire rod here until now. That was a pretty clean fight on Kohrek's side. The eyes did get away from him, but brought them down, getting his second crystal and 4th overall dungeon completion. And it looks like Dracarys is also finishing his 4th overall dungeon. Of what, 11? 12?
I guess it's depends on how you count dungeons.
Checking checkerboard cave while you're in the area. Unfortunately, it just gives us 10 arrows today, nothing great. And I think that's it. Mire's shed was checked. Desert was fully cleared. He's heading off to the mountain again, probably to finish up Tower of Hera. And unfortunately for Dracarys, he has to do the same thing Kohrek did, because he also skipped the left side.
Yeah, so it looks like he's not quite feeling so far behind that he has to take crazy gambles, like leaving 2 items left side. Which is kind of a bummer because it could make him up time, but ultimately probably a good thing because he isn't so far behind that he should be taking a gamble that's that risky, in my opinion. Of course, he doesn't know that, but...
Yeah. So, in terms of dungeon completion, we can do Desert Palace, which Kohrek has already done. Skull Woods is open ever since both of the runners found Fire Rod. Ice Palace is a pretty big low-hanging fruit at this point because it's 3 items, 3 hints, and a crystal that we need anyway.
Yeah, and with the crystal dungeons that we have, normally when you play an all dungeon seed, it is a distinct possibility that you're going to find necessary progression in Ganon's Tower. It's much more likely than in defeat Ganon goal. But in this particular seed, we need every one of those progressive items left in order to finish our crystal dungeon. So we're not going to find anything required in Ganon's Tower.
Yeah. An interesting thing, a bit of a mercy in terms of the seed generation, is the fact that we know we can clear all of our pendant dungeons right now, because sometimes all dungeons requires you to finish up all 7 crystals without being able to clear out the pendants, and then you'll have to find items in like Ganon's Tower.
Yeah, it can both suck really bad to do something like go all the way up the top of Ganon's Tower after full clearing the entire basement and putting the big chest. Or sometimes it can even be a mercy, like if all the item density is in Ganon's Tower and you skip out on a lot.
Yeah, Kohrek is also opting to do bomb strats here. I mean, this fight is a little scary, especially with that big pit in the center of the. Honestly, bomb strats aren't that slow in this fight either way.
Yeah, it's nice.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, my bad.
I was just gonna say it's also really a lot easier when you have Tempered Sword instead of Fighter Sword too.
Yeah, that was like maybe a minute difference or more between those 2 fights, partially because of the different swords.
We're really running low on locations that Trinex could be, down to 5 regular dungeons and then 2 spots, I think, in Ganon's Tower, because Trinex can actually appear in large rooms, like Moldorm 2.
Yeah, it's a limitation of the randomizer.
Oh.
Ooh.
All right, so Boots gives us Quake here at Bonk Rocks, and that lets us get into and fully clear out Misery Mire. We also found a hint earlier telling us that there is nothing really important in the left side of Misery Mire, so that'll save our runners a bit of time. And one of the items I think was just a piece of heart, so we're only looking for one item in Misery Mire.
Yeah, that is a nice hint. Kohrek deciding to go to Ice Palace, which is makes a lot of sense. Doesn't have that Quake medallion as Dracarys does. Also, there. Oh wait a minute, he could have been doing that for the actual bomb upgrade or just to refill his bomb count. But there's also those 3 hints there. So if any of those point towards the missing Ether medallion, he doesn't know where the Quake medallion is, or the bow, any one of those things could save him a significant amount of time.
Yep, and Dracarys is going to be finishing off Skull Woods here. We have found all the items in here, but it is a green pendant, so that's an additional item we can check, especially once Dracarys heads over to Palace of Darkness, unless Sahasrara has the bow for us. Which would be kind of a troll, I think.
Yeah, that would be a bit of a troll. It'd be nice for Dracarys, having already dipped Pod, to then be the first one to get the bow at least.
Yeah, Chad is also pointing out that it's also our last pendant.
Yeah, I really like this play from Dracarys because there's no item left in the dungeon other than, of course, the Saha green pendant item. But yeah, you can just mirror out right away and check Ped.
Yeah, I do like that play. I mean, Kohrek's going to be able to do the same thing whenever he decides to go over in that direction, assuming both or either of our runners remember the fact that they will have all the pendants after killing whatever is at Mothula.
Oh, it's Lamo. I was like, where is it?
It's below you. Not a bad spot for Landmolas. Again, the spikes don't move in this fight. The conveyor belts do, though. That's really your biggest threat in this fight. Or I should say any fight in the Randomizer.
Kohrek going for the bomb jump.
And Dracarys realizing that he can just check the pedestal. And doing so. And the bomb jump was first.
Yeah, public service announcement. Actually, hold for that public service announcement as we get a pedestal check.
And it's the book!
Wow. So we know that, you know, it unlocks 2 locations for us at this point, but we know that one of them is just a piece of heart.
This is a paradox, at least according to the pedestal hint.
Oh yes, when you read the pedestal hint without a book.
That made more sense when the book was logically required to check the pedestal, or for the pedestal to be in play.
Oh, did that used to be a logical requirement?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting.
In the first iteration, or maybe even the first few iterations, where the pedestal could have... Wait. I think in the first few iterations where the pedestal had a hint, the book was a requirement.
So Kohrek finding at least 2 items here. I think he got a small key in the first chest. I can't remember. But yeah, it does look like he's looking for more items. So 1 item left in Ice Palace to find. The public service announcement I was about to give was about that Ice Palace bomb jump. It is good to know that in Randomizer, it is possible. A second boots hint.
Yep. Anyway, continue.
I was just going to say, it is possible that you just simply cannot do the Ice Palace bomb jump, like if there's an Annie Fairy in that room. It just messes with the bomb boosting mechanic.
It is good to know. Just a map here in the iced tea room, while Dracarys is going to be finishing off Desert Palace as well. It is interesting considering how much overlap each runner has had, like looking at the completion of dungeons. So
yeah, each of them have 5 dungeons, and with like slightly different routing diversions as you're talking about. And there's the 3rd item from Kohrek, so nothing in Ice Palace looks like, not even a useful hint.
not even a free refill from finding a piece of heart, but he does just use a blue potion. Which, I mean, might not even... I'd have probably just waited till I saw what boss it was.
Yeah, like another Muldorm or something. Maybe you don't really think you need that potion.
Not that it really matters. We have a ton of money, we have a flute, and above all, we have skill to not really need a potion in most situations. Hey! Speak of the devil.
It's 4 Eyes.
4 Eyes, Muldorm number 3.
Dracarys making his way through these lag rooms in Desert Palace 2.
We get to experience this lag one last time. And Kohrek, where do you go from here? For him, it's pretty much Skullwoods, or just checking some other locations like Bonk Rocks.
Yeah, right, those boots locations. Looks like he's gonna go for potions, though.
So we know where Kohrek needs to go. He needs to probably do a save and quit sometime soon, then visit Bonk Rocks. We also have the King's Tomb. I think Dracarys had to have done it.
Yeah, Dracarys checked it. I can't say what it was, though.
But I think there's still the Graveyard Legend play. There's still... There's not a ton on the overworld, huh? I guess there's Dwarfs, Purple Chest, Peg Cave.
Oh, right, yeah. That's interesting that we haven't done that yet, but I guess because we got both the Mire and then the Mitts kind of later in our route.
The Mitts didn't come until we had just unlocked a bunch of other potential locations and dungeons.
So now we're 6 and 6 in terms of dungeons.
But it looks like Kohrek can check the Graveyard Ledge. Assuming Dracarys didn't do it, I'm pretty sure he didn't.
Yeah, I don't think he was in the Dark World, because he did it from a save and quit.
So this is going to be good for Kohrek because he will be able to pick up the Quake Medallion and even up on items here as well. I mean, he still has the sword lead. He'll probably grab the book after he finishes off Mothula, which will probably be the thing he does immediately after going over towards Bonk Rock.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense routing-wise. There's not a better dungeon to do right now. It's a dungeon he can finish, opens up items, and then if he's thinking about a pod dip anyway, well, then great. Now you've just made that slightly more worth your while by being able to check Sahashala while you're over there.
Yep, and Dracarys is heading into Misery Mire with that Quake Medallion. There are 2 items in here, but one of them we already know is a piece of heart, and we don't need to get.
So 1 item here. We've got 1 item for the green pendant turn-in. And then the Smith Purple Chest Hammer Pegs chain, is that it?
Yeah, yep.
Wow.
I mean, we probably will end up finding the bow in Turtle Rock, which will allow us to finish up Palace of Darkness. But yeah, Ether's probably somewhere. I mean, somewhere close by.
Yeah, that is most probable because it unlocks the most number of locations to find Ether before. I think that's how that works anyway.
Oh, I think we didn't mention Bombos tablet.
Oh, right.
And
Yeah,
an
Bombos and Ether.
tablet. One of which is a heart container?
So we'll just count that as one item then between the two locations.
But that does kind of further incentivize the blacksmith chain, because you get 3 items there, including the purple chest, and then on the way, or immediately after turning in the purple chest, you can check Bombos. Which is nice, because Bombos is the more annoying of the 2 tablets to check.
Yeah, especially considering they already have Mire, and this is not inverted mode.
Oh, did we get a hint for the purple chest today?
I don't think, I don't remember one. Dracarys going left side Mire though, so he might not have got the hint for left side.
Or he just forgot.
Could be, yeah.
I forget exactly where that hint was, but I don't think it was anywhere, difficult to check. Actually, it might have been in Thieves Town, upstairs.
Yeah, I think it was either that or like Spec Rock, because it seemed to be, I seem to remember it being pretty early on.
I know Spectacle Rock was a troll hint talking about Super Metroid.
Oh yeah, right. So Dracarys going for, it looks like Vitreous has the final item.
Yep, and Kohrek pulling the pedestal for another paradox. Honestly, with that in hand, I would probably just go and right down to Village of Outcasts, knowing what Kohrek does. Although I guess... No, looks like he's gonna turn in the pendant, but he's not going into Palace of Darkness, interestingly enough.
Yeah, I guess because he has Mire access, he knows there's one item there. He's probably gonna have to, he thinks he's probably gonna have to clear the dungeon anyway to find the big key. Oh my god.
Okay, so I think it's very possible that Dracarys finishes this seed with Master Sword and Kohrek has Butter Sword.
Yeah, it depends on where that Ether medallion is. If it's on Vitreous, that's very probable that he won't do the Sahasrahla check, but if he's still looking for items by the time he comes back to Sahasrahla or Pod, then maybe not. But it would be interesting to see that huge of a difference, though, in swords.
It's also up to Kohrek here to not check the left side. Oh, look, it's Moldorm number 4.
Our favorite.
Four-eyed Moldorm. Get out of here, nerd. And
squared.
we just get a bottle with a bee in it. Knowing that Etorp is always watching warms my heart.
So now pretty even. I would say that Kohrek does have a slight lead. Obviously, the sword helps quite a bit, but also I think Ice Palace is going to take Dracarys longer if he full clears it than it will for Kohrek to catch up here in Misery Mire. And it looks like Dracarys is going Ice Palace next, which is a bit of a bummer for him, we know, because it would have been so much better if he could go mode it. There's nothing there of value other than the crystal.
Yeah, conventional wisdom for a lot of runners is to prioritize clearing dungeons that you can clear, especially in all dungeons where all of them are required. They typically leave overworld checks until, you know, they're running low on things to check, unless it's something that has an absurd number of locations in the overworld, like Paradox Cave or what have you.
Yeah, and in this case, Dracarys doesn't feel like he has to gamble, so he's not gonna diverge from that normal thinking of the normal ABCs of routing, always be clearing.
So Kohrek does not check the left side here. I wonder if he remembers the hint, or if he's just hoping that he doesn't have to go over there.
So now I believe that they're neck and neck in terms of overworld checks. So once Dracarys takes down Cold Stare and Kohrek beats Vitreous, we'll have a very good idea of what the time difference is between these runners.
Yeah, Kohrek, it seems like he has a bit of an advantage. He did do a few more checks than Dracarys did, so even if Dracarys evens up his sword advantage by checking Catfish and Sahasrahla, Kohrek is still going to be a little bit ahead.
Sarah Zelda in chat pointing out that we have not seen the Pyramid Fairy yet, and we have access to that having defeated Misery Mire and Swamp Palace, or Kohrek will have access to that too soon. So that's another 2 items.
Yeah, I usually in this version of the randomizer, you get a hint for Pyramid Fairy. I mean, I don't want to say usually. I want to say pretty often. So
yeah, it's one of I can't remember how many. I think it's like 8 or 10. It's some number of locations that the devs have decided are trolley locations because they're easy to isolate or just completely ignore, like Catfish or West Side Swamp. And then they take a number of those trolley locations and give you a hint for that location. So basically, it's a 50% chance that you're going to get a hint for any given trolley location.
Right. So Dracarys here is still in the first bit of Ice Palace, and Kohrek is almost done here with Misery Mire, and it's a Moldorm, so it's going to be quick. And then he's just going to be off to the races of checking the dwarves, most likely. Well, unless he falls for the bait and heads into Palace of Darkness. He tried to do a spooky action glitch.
Yeah, I don't know if the setup got messed up or something, or he just couldn't hit the right pixel on the torch or something.
I don't know. I did a different... When I learned it, I did a different setup, but it doesn't matter. It didn't lose him that much time, and this boss is kind of a joke with Butter Sword and no way to push you off a ledge. So take that, Molder.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, Kohrek picking up that crystal a lot earlier than Dracarys is picking up the crystal on the Ice Palace boss, so showing us that he does have a bit of a lead. Dracarys is almost there, though, to the boss fight. It's got maybe like less than a minute left in this dungeon, I would say. But dungeon exit at 1:23:23, so we'll see what the time difference is between them. But it's not as simple as just saying like this is the lead, or it just depends on where they go overworld-wise from here.
Yep, so Kohrek is going directly to Pyramid Fairy, not going to be getting baited by the dwarves. I don't know. Pyramid Fairy for me never seems to work out. Until I forget about it, and then it always has something I need.
I'm with you on your previous route, like Smith's Purple Chest. Oh, he's going to Bombos Medallion.
See, that's the thing. Like, I would rather just combo this with the Purple Chest. You're wasting a bit of time, assuming you have to go there anyway, which is, maybe not an assumption you want to make, but...
Well, let's get into the theoretics a bit here, because I think I see a way, though, that maybe Kohrek is thinking this with his routing. as he picks up a green goo. They need 2 items to be in go mode. However, we're kind of talked about this earlier, that it's very probable that go mode, that the next item they get is going to be Ether and Bo is going to be in Turtle Rock. That seems like that is a really distinct possibility. So in that case, you could almost treat it like the fact that all he's looking for is Ether. In which case, when you have only 1 item left for go mode, your routing mentality can kind of change a little bit. And instead of thinking about, I want to check all the locations that are available to me the most efficiently, instead you start thinking about, what is the absolute fastest checks I can do right now? Like the very next fastest check. Which could be, I could see that as an argument for going to Bombo's tablet here first, instead of routing that in with those other 3 checks.
Yeah. Oh well, Kohrek is checking the Pyramid Fairy regardless, and Dracarys looks like he's going to be doing the same thing. It remains to be seen whether or not he's going to do Bombos first, like Kohrek did, or just go directly to the Pyramid first.
Yeah, unfortunately I wasn't checking the exact time when he left the dungeon, but I'm guessing it's about 1.5 minutes after both of them finished their bosses. Seems about right.
Yep. And Ether in this dungeon. Kohrek is not going to be heading to Palace of Darkness. He is going to go directly to Turtle Rock. He will not pass go. He will not collect 200.
So because Dracarys did not check Bombo's tablet first, the lead's gonna close a little bit by actually kind of significantly. So this is a very close game all of a sudden. I mean, it's been close the whole time, but now it's much closer. Although Kohrek does still have the sword advantage as well.
Yeah, but Dracarys did do a lot of Palace of Darkness already, so he's not going to spend as much time looking for the big key, though the big key was in the front half of Palace of Darkness. So that means Kohrek won't be wasting time, in the dark parts.
Oh yeah, good point, yeah.
Honestly, it might be even now. About...
Yeah, I think it kind of... Oh, sorry to cut you off.
Maybe a little bit of an advantage still for Kohrek, but not much.
I think it might come down to how useful those swords are going to be depending on which bosses they have to fight. So, like for instance, a bowless Vitreous fight could really make, a sword that's essentially 4 times as good as Master Sword pretty significant in terms of time save.
Yeah, and there's also Ganon himself. Like Dracarys at this point will have no reason to check Sahasrara or Catfish. So he'll probably be Master Sword Ganon. Even though it is Master Sword with silvers, it has the potential of being pretty slow.
Yeah, optimally, if you do the absolute best Ganon fights you can do with Master Sword, you can still do a 2-cycle phase 1, 1-cycle phase 2, or what we call a 2-in-1. Whereas optimal Butter Sword fight would also be a 1-in-1, so you wouldn't optimally lose much time there because they have silver arrows. However, you don't usually do an optimal Master Sword Ganon fight. It's much more likely you see something like a 3-in-5.
What are these enemies here in this first big room in Turtle Rock? A chain chomp and a fire bar for almost guaranteed damage.
And a Pokey looks like it was hanging out on the track too. Kohrek might have to go an interesting way to avoid damage there.
That's a good... Oh, there's our bow. That's go mode. Anyway, this is a nice room. No rollers, just some skittering in.
Yeah, thanks, Randomizer.
Is he gonna even get hit by that Pokey? Nope.
Oh.
That chain chop didn't even get a swing.
All right, well, you called it. Dracarys almost certainly going to skip Sahasrara now that he's going to get go mode before he has a reason to go and turn in the green pendant.
Yeah.
So that means he's going to be probably finishing the game with 2 swords.
Yeah, and we find the powder here in Turtle Rock, so it's going to be a fairly easy one. because you can just powder any bunny beans or anti-fairies you come across. Wow, this is going to be interesting. I mean, Kohrek, I think, still has the advantage, like we talked about with the sword advantage. But it's going to be interesting to see where they end up when they're both in Palace of Darkness.
Yeah, once Helma goes down, what we'd want to see for a close race, you know, if we're excited to see like a photo finish, we would want Dracarys to be slightly ahead. But that's going to be the real indicator once Helma goes down. Or not Helma, but whatever the boss is there.
I think the big key might have been the first chest in Palace of Darkness. I'm not 100% sure on that. I think that's the case, though.
That would definitely not bode well for Dracarys. Although that means that Kohrek would still have to do right side, so that actually might be fine.
Kohrek is taking no chances here in Palace of Darkness. Is going to be checking the big chest here, which does have a small key. I mean, having 0 small keys is a pretty big indicator that you should probably just check the big key chest and not, you know, gamble on it.
Yeah, when you have to go to the vanilla, big key chest. Oh no! Dracarys getting caught by a wall master.
Ouch.
That is a huge upset here.
Unfortunately, that is not the thing he needs to come ahead here in this race. He's already a bit behind, and that just strengthens Kohrek's lead.
Yeah, Turtle Rock, a terrible dungeon to find a wall master in because it is so long and linear.
On the plus side, if you get to the midpoint, like the big chest, you get a free shortcut, or not shortcut, checkpoint, I guess. And it looks like we did have to come to Laser Bridge, so that's the big chest was required, I think. Or wait, yeah, I think it was. But you wouldn't have been able to get down here without it.
So I think what Kohrek did, you know, choosing it, when the big key is in the vanilla big key chest, what Kohrek did, I think, is what most runners would do, is they would go take the extra time to check the big chest for that potential small key as well. But it is an option. Like, you could skip it. It's a risky option. Of course, that'd be bad for Dracarys. So let's hope he doesn't do that for his sake.
Yeah, it's super risky if you have 0 small keys going into the back half of the dungeon, but it is still possible if there's a small key in the single or the crystal roll room. But that is our second to last crystal, second to last dungeon, that is on Ganon Tower or Aga Tower, which will be our final 2 dungeons. And Kohrek just has to go mode Palace of Darkness, which is going to be super quick.
Yeah, not quite as fast as Dracarys' go mode of pod, but because that wall master, that lead, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be quite as close again. I really can't tell. You know, the other thing I'm forgetting is we still have to play the find the big key game, so that's another place that Dracarys could easily make up some time as well.
Yep. Honestly, I don't know. Like, Kohrek could make a weird route, or Dracarys could make a weird route that pays off. But with that Wallmaster, Kohrek's lead just keeps increasing. All right. And about that big key game, I mean, it's not going to be very long until we get to whatever is at Helmasaur. We could go over that right now. Give people a bit of time to think about their guesses.
Good idea. Yeah, so if you're new to the big key guessing game, what we do is we type into chat a number between 1 and 22, which is our guess for which location the big key will be in to allow us to get up to the top of the tower, one step closer to finishing the game. And we'll start that as soon as Helma goes down. So.
Yep, so whenever you see one of us say start, and Speed Gaming will have a nice little 200-word essay in chat about it. You can type your number in. Don't do it yet, but Kohrek is blazing towards whatever's at Vanilla Helmasaur. It's not going to be long now. See, I somehow managed to miss what was at Trinex. What boss was at Trinex? What was that?
Armos Knights.
We have yet to see a Trinex, haven't we?
Yeah, that's true. We have potentially 3 more chances here. 1 here in Pod, and then 2 more in Ganon's Tower, depending on where the big key is.
Yeah, and again, it can't be upstairs. So, with any luck, there's only one more location past Vanilla Helmasaur.
Oh, can Trinex not be on Landmo 2 fight?
Moldorm 2.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it could be. I see what you're saying. Vanilla Helma.
That is our 3rd Helmasaur, I believe. So this seed has been very generous with Moldorms and Helmasaurs. We've had an Armos Knights, a Landmolas, 4 Moldorms, 4 4-eyed Moldorms, 3 Helmasaurs, and a partridge in a pear tree. So yeah, let's start the game. That is our final crystal, our final regular dungeon completed. And yeah, got a lot of spam in chat. My personal favorite, number 8, would be, if you're following the classical route, is the Firebar room. What about you?
Well, I like to see something on behind Ice Armos, because then it makes different routing choices a little bit more interesting. But I always guess number 24.
That is a number.
I have won with it once.
Somehow.
Yeah, well, because nobody guessed close enough to 22.
Okay.
It was an accidental guess.
All right, Kohrek dashing past that fake Master Sword. We don't need a fake Master Sword. We have a real gold sword, which is somehow better than the sword to destroy evil. So yeah, this is interesting. We have like every item, and we don't need the book. We don't need the powder. Don't need Bombos, sadly.
Yeah, which means we didn't need the mushroom. Kohrek opening up G Tower at 139.20 as Dracarys just finishes their final pendant/crystal dungeon. So that puts them a mountain climb behind Kohrek, but that is definitely close enough that GT Big Key location could make the difference in this finish here.
Yeah, Dracarys. Ooh, Kohrek is going either full left or maybe a Dark Magician route. I'm wondering if he's thinking he's a little behind. It gets bodied immediately by a firebar.
That is a hot room.
So yeah, this is where Dracarys could come back if he decides to go a more standard route, and it's in the first two chests on the right side. That could be all he needs.
Yeah, I think Hope Chests is one of Dracarys' final hopes.
Alright, looks like Kohrek is going to be doing either a Dark Magician strat or something similar to it. He's going to be heading and doing either full rights or right side up to the forward chest room.
Interesting strat, I just realized for Randomizer, kind of interesting because that's one of the few rooms where you have to kill all the enemies in the basement. Might be the only one. So by doing a Dark Magician, you're kind of guaranteeing yourself that I'm not going to have to waste time killing enemies that might be time-consuming to kill.
That is true. Wow, that's a hero Hinox throwing the bomb that blocked the fire rod shot. Unfortunately, it was too little too late. We have half magic and a lot of determination.
Okay, Big Key is in Compass Room. That means Kohrek has a very solid lead. If it's not, Dracarys is still in the game.
It is not, and Kohrek is not going to be doing the full Dark Magician, so he will be doing left side, not just going directly towards Armos.
Dracarys,
So, yeah,
though, skipped the Hope Chest, so it looks like... didn't he? No, yeah, I think he did skip the Hope Chest, so I think he's going also Dark Magician strat, unfortunately, unless he goes full right afterward.
We shall see. Nope, looks like he's going to be doing a similar strat.
Yeah, probably similar line of reasoning there, but we know that that's a little bit unfortunate because that could have been a potential way Dracarys gets ahead. Unless he does go full right and Big Key is on Bob's Torch or Ice Armos, then going full right is slightly faster than Kohrek's route. Even where he is now, I think Dracarys would still reach that location first.
Yeah. And Tile Room is always there. Always watching. Kohrek getting a bit trolled by that, that's... I don't even know. It's like a skull. It's one of those bouncing skull enemies from the Dark World, but it's got a different sprite.
Alright, I need to catch up on my count here, because his route made me totally kind of space out on the...
Yeah, I haven't been counting either. I believe...
Okay, I think that was chest number 16 he just opened up. Dracarys is going full right. This is really good news in terms of equalization possibility. He could make up some time.
I believe we have 5 more chests to check on Kohrek's side, including Bob's chest, the 3 after Ice Armos, and Tile Room.
Oh yeah, then I think that was actually chest 17 we just opened. Because I forgot to count Bob's Torch. Yeah, Bob's Torch.
Yep, that was chest number 18. So Dracarys, if it's here, this is good for Dracarys. If it is, oh, Mothula. Surprise cameo.
I think it has to be here, right?
It could be Tile Room.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, yeah.
If it is here, it is good for Dracarys. If it is not here, it is good for Kohrek. Very good for Kohrek. And it is Tile Room! I always say, just go for Tile Room, You're gonna get it sooner or later.
Well, there is a GT routing strat that's not a tile room gamble that would have been really nice this seed, wherein if you don't get a small key in the 2 hope chests, you go and do tile room right away. And the thinking is, of course, you win if you get a big key. That's pretty obvious. But you also win if you get a small key and the big key is anywhere on the right side. Dracarys is... Oh, right, he hasn't done left side. Oh, yeah, that's why it's so good for Kohrek.
Yep, he still needs to do all of this, whereas Kohrek is already zeroed in on the location. And... I don't know what that says. LTTP, okay. Where's Kohrek? Oh, he's getting the full magic. That's a good strat.
Oh, that's really smart.
So yeah, the big key was number 22. So our Green Paradox won at that time with his incredibly pessimistic vote. Or not vote. Yeah.
Good game, our Green Paradox.
Kohrek just, you know, those tiny little berries are the worst. Their hitbox is like so small that your sword simply just passes through it sometimes.
Yeah, especially when they're up on the wall against that, and smartly deciding to use a fire rod on the red bar in that room. So if you fire rod it, you don't have to deal with the small ones.
And unfortunately, Dracarys gets the realization that he does need to do tile room. And his routing, all of his fancy routing footwork was moot. It has all come down to this.
Yeah, we just got a gauntlet climb, Agate 2 tower to do, and again. But this is definitely Kohrek's race to lose now, especially with that sword advantage and that time advantage. He's got about 2 minutes time advantage in G tower over Dracarys, I would say.
Definitely. And Gauntlet, I mean, I don't really like these Igors, but there could be worse things. A lot of Helmosaurs, a lot of Igors. Now we got some Mudmen and some, yeah, Tektites. Really not too bad. Gauntlet is over. Time to see what is at Land Mode 2. Well, it's not Trinex, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to see it right now if it was.
Oh, I was saying this earlier, but the moment the last puff dies, he can just go through that.
Oh yeah, right. This is the phase 1 done, door opens up fight, or one of them anyway.
Just leave Kohrek. It's not worth it.
I have seen people killed by that second phase Argus dropping down in the next room, though, because it's so surprising, catch you off guard.
Yeah. One of the worst things about Randomizer, you can't do that swag Canis Amaria strat here, in these rooms here.
If not the worst thing. Dracarys going for the refill room, I think particularly because he's out of magic right now.
Kohrek having to do some fancy footwork to not fall in the pit. Switches to the fire rod and makes this pretty easy. I mean, he does have half magic, so he can just go right upstairs. Doesn't even need to wait for them to burn out because he's spent very little time lighting those torches.
Also, Kohrek not checking these last 2 chests. Dracarys almost certainly will. Still sporting that Master Sword.
And is it It's our 5th Moldorm.
You ruined the count, Four Eyes.
Yeah, could have been 4 4-eyed Moldorms. What an inconsiderate boss.
Ruined Christmas for me.
Ruined Boxing Day for me.
Thanks, Zarby.
Kohrek having a bit of trouble here in this last weird room before Aga 2. Unfortunately, in Randomizer. Yeah, unfortunately in Randomizer, Aghanim is not one of the randomized bosses. You always have to fight him.
Yeah, from here on out, it's all guaranteed bosses. Aga 2, Aga 1, Ganon.
Alright, was that 4 hits or 3 so far? Out of 6?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was 4, and we are done with Aga 2. Gonna be heading up to Aga 1. If you're confused, don't worry about it. This is all part of the plan. So if you thought we were going directly into Ganon with the flying skeleton parts, you'd be wrong. Get a surprise ascent up this tower. Dracarys using lamp strats here, interestingly enough. He does have Fire Rod and a lamp.
Maybe it was a strategy to like avoid the Hinox or something?
Maybe. So far, pretty tame ascent into Aga Tower. Kohrek using the silver arrows when he does have the gold sword, which is kind of interesting. And Dracarys is looking for items, looking for swords pretty much at this point. I mean, as far as he's concerned, the chances of there being a sword in Ganon's tower are pretty...
Yeah, not much left that's open to him.
But unfortunately, it was just 2 somewhat out-of-the-way locations that held his offensive upgrades.
With a 22 big key, I think we're going to see a pretty dang high clear rate at the end of all of this.
Oh yeah, especially on Dracarys' side. I mean, Kohrek, I guess, probably cleared about the same amount, because he did a few more overworld checks than Dracarys did. Fortunately, the boomerang does not kill crabs, and we had to actually go into the center of the room to finish the job.
Dracarys now heading up towards his Aga 2 fight.
Yeah, they might be in more or less the same boss at the same time. Well, Kohrek getting a bit trolled by this Hinox before getting into the second to last room here. Or third to last, I guess.
All right, Dracarys takes down Aga 2 just about almost exactly 3 minutes after Kohrek did. So with a 3-minute difference, gonna have to see maybe a couple of Ganon falls to equalize.
Yeah. So, how many blue balls do you think we're gonna get today?
15.
15? Well,
I don't think, but I hope, I guess I should say.
Oh, you're lucky
Already
right now.
wrong.
Well, let's just say 3. Go pretty standard.
Does it count? I mean, you guessed after you saw the whole first cycle. Come on.
I mean, sure, it counts.
I'm gonna have to take this up with the admins.
Listen, when we get a blue balls leaderboard, then we'll talk. I wasn't even counting. Was it 2 or 3?
I actually don't. I actually don't know. I saw 2 for sure, but I'm not sure if there was a third.
All right. After that detour, Kohrek heading down into the Ganon fight, fully equipped. Every single item in the game, except for some heart containers. I just noticed that Dracarys has 2 more heart containers than Kohrek. Probably from upstairs in Ganon's tower, mainly.
Could be, yeah. Or maybe Pod, or I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, that too. So that was pretty much like one of the biggest differences in the seed. Kohrek decided to avoid Pod at all costs, whereas Dracarys did not. And Pod did not pay out in any way, shape, or form. And Kohrek also was a bit more of a completionist in the overworld and got 2 additional swords. And yes, we did find the arrows on the light world. It's nice of you to ask. You left them with a literal child.
So irresponsible.
Yeah, I know. At least reaping what he sowed. And Kohrek does it. GG.
Walks through the door. Official time of 1:56:22. First place is Kohrek, taking game 1 between these 2 players. Still, though, despite that, I mean, like, thinking back on the race, the differences between these runners so small. Like, the decision for Dracarys to do Pod first, they gained back a lot of that time in other ways. Especially having only Master Sword, very impressive. The little time difference between these 2 runners.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't see a lot of later game bosses. Like, we didn't see a Vitreous, we didn't see a Trinex, even though we should have. We saw 1 Cold Stare, I'm pretty sure, but it was after we had both the Fire Rod, Bombos, and also the Half Magic. So, Randomizer was pretty nice to us today, honestly.
Yeah, especially for an all-dungeon seed where, you know, you just have slightly higher probability of having not nice things happen. But I think the biggest divergences were Dracarys' early Pod. I mean, there were such small things, like the fact that Dracarys went straight to Pyramid Fairy rather than going to Bombo's Tablet.
Your Uncle So's, and he's also a skeleton. I guess this is canon.
Getting a nice double Master Sword spin here on phase 1.
Yep, and a good position here. Unfortunately, I don't think he's triggered the second phase to take advantage of it. And I don't know what the heck's going on in that scene, but I don't want anything to do with it. I think like Zarby has to answer for this. What? This is like a bad experience with the mushrooms and/or the powder.
Yeah, that and the 5 Four Eyes Moldorm, both things. Everybody, make sure Zarby knows. So Dracarys getting the fight in, I would say, which much more like normal 4 and 2. So a little bit slower than Kohrek got to do it because of his Butter Sword.
Yeah, this has been a very good fight with just the Master Sword. He had a few extra phases that Kohrek didn't have to have, but if he if this were like a neck and neck ascending Ganon's Tower, this still would have been very close. I mean, it's really only going to be like maybe a 4-minute difference in the end. 3 to 4. Or wait, 4 to 5. He's having a bit of trouble getting these spins off. But thankfully, we do not have to do Silverless Master Sword Ganon.
Yeah, that would be...
Dracarys takes down Ganon. Good game for him. And I guess we'll see if either or both wants to come in for an interview.
Yeah, official time there from Dracarys at 2 hours, 17 seconds. So yeah, less than 4 minutes between these runners. A little bit less than 4 minutes between these runners.
All right, I think we're still seeing if they want to come in. But yeah, this was I mean, we've said it several times. This was a very close race. It could have gone either way. It really kind of bottlenecked them for a bit until they got up the mountain. And once they did that, it was like the entire world was open to them except for a few small locations. And then it was just like an issue of making the best route, which is really, I think, at least in my opinion, what Randomizer is all about.
Yeah, and that, I think as soon as they got in the Dark World, you know, and we're talking about just how open up the game was. I mean, this is before it had bottlenecked them in another way, but how opened up the game was, Dracarys deciding to go to pod. That, like, you know, it'd be an easy thing to, in hindsight, be like, oh god, why did I do that? But it makes total sense. I mean, it's just, do I go this way or that way, left or right? It could have easily burned him to go to Village of Outcasts as opposed to pod, and in a different seed it might have worked out totally differently. But in this case, pod having no progressive items at all.
Yeah, yeah, this is... Honestly, I'm very surprised with the items they had. That Palace of Darkness was just a bust. But not sure if we're going to be getting either of them in.
Yeah, I think we're just trying to figure out how to get them in this channel real quick.
It'll be interesting to see what Dracarys wants to do for the second... Or sorry, no, this was Dracarys' pick. Yeah. So it is interesting that Dracarys actually took the loss with his own pick. So now Kohrek can just pick whatever he feels comfortable with that Dracarys may not. But as you said at the beginning of this, or maybe it was even before the whole thing started, Dracarys has done so many races over the past year. And maybe he's probably has experience in almost every permutation of Randomizer.
Yeah, this Dracarys' seed pick being all dungeons. I wonder, you know, how this is going to go back and forth, and why the focus on all dungeons Randomizer.
Having a bit of an issue getting the invite sent out, but hopefully we can get one or both of them in here, talk about this seed.
That collection rate, though, 173 of 216, not quite as high, I think, as Dracarys' might be, but still Still up there. It's actually lower than I thought it might be.
Right, but Kohrek skipped out on almost every check in Palace of Darkness.
Oh
He
yeah.
had a few additional overworld checks. So Dracarys will probably have at least 180 to 190, I would say.
Yeah, that sounds about right. There's like a 10 item difference in pod between Kohrek and Dracarys because of that full clear. But yeah, some impressive in gameplay, and I'm interested to see the next matchup between these two players because this one did have the potential to be so close, and there was really similar thinking and routing. I am imagining that the next match is also going to be very close.
Do we know? Okay, so the next matchup between these two players is going to be Friday, it looks like. And it will be all dungeons, standard, Uncle Assured, normal, key sanity. So that could be interesting. That could have a wide array of memes. But
Yeah.
anyway, looks like our runners are actually in the chat now. So GG's to both of you.
GG.
GG.
So interesting. You guys ended up following pretty similar routes. I think maybe partially just due to the seed and how it unfolded. But some early divergence between you two when Dracarys decided to go to pod, and Kohrek, you kind of went for this Hype Cave Pyramid Catfish check, getting a very important sword, and then going to Village of Outcasts. So we were just kind of theorizing about what your thought process might have been to go to pod, Dracarys, but let's hear it from you.
Well, mostly I got burned by progression pod that leads to a bow way too many times. So I decided, well, it can't be bow locked because it's Randomizer. I can get at least 4 items out of there, so let's just get it over with. Let's go there and come back once I have the bow. And unfortunately, it didn't work out this time. But yeah, that's Rando.
Yeah, I was gonna say in another seed, it could have gone a very opposite way. Like it's one of those decisions that there's no right answer.
Similarly, Kohrek, what spurred you to make a beeline towards Catfish?
So my standard play usually is to just do the South Dark World, but Thelaine lately has been doing the early Catfish, and I said, you know what, like nobody will expect me to do the early Catfish, so maybe if something important ends up there, it would be like good hidden information because it's something I'd never do. So it felt really bad though when the Mire ended up right at the dig game like that, and then the hook shot right after it.
Yeah, I'm definitely a firm proponent of early Catfish, so made my day. And made my day that it actually paid off. So, kudos. There was another pretty big divergence was that Dracarys got a hint for the boots work, and instead of going through Swamp Palace when the game was clearly like shouting "Do Swamp Palace," Dracarys went up the mountain and was able to get all of that progression before he ever set foot in the swamp. So I think that was a bit of a boon on Dracarys' side. He was able to have the boots and fire rod and all that going through Swamp Palace. So I guess what spurred you to go up the mountain? Was it just the boots check?
It was the boots check, and I didn't know which bosses in Swamp Palace, and I was still missing, well, anything to kill Cold Stare at that point, so I just decided, well, I can do Swamp Palace after the mountain. Let's just do the mountain first. And then the mountain was just completely loaded.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that's true. Randomizer can put a lot of weird roadblocks. Swamp Palace is not a place you want to ever enter twice if you can avoid it. Well, specifically draining like the swamp and going in is really slow. So I can agree with that check.
Yeah, we were also really curious. You both did something interesting. We thought it was interesting anyway. How kind of near the end of the seed, you still had Bo left to find and Ether left to find. You both did this actually. You went to you had a few checks left too. You had the Dwarven Smith, Purple Chest, Hammer Pigs, Bombos Tablet, and also Pyramid Fairy. We were both theorizing. Oh, if you do the Hammer Pigs, Smith Chest, that brings you right to the Bombos Tablet. How nice is that? But you both ended up going kind of almost straight to Pyramid Fairy, with Kohrek making a quick stop by Bombos Tablet first. So just interested to hear why you might have made that decision instead of the other one.
From my perspective, I knew that it was a possibility you could have had the mitts and the mirror and like everything to do the Smith chain your first time in Village of Outcasts if you routed it a certain way. And since I kind of felt bad with where the mirror ended up, I'm like, if it's there, I lost already. Let's just keep going. That'll be my last check.
It was actually pretty similar for me. Because I also got late to the mirror and late to the hook shot, and I knew that both of them led to the mids, and I was like, well, maybe Kohrek routed Hype Cave to Dig Game and got his hook shot and went straight to Death Mountain, and then he got the mids before he even entered Village of Outcasts and did all this stuff on his first trip. Let's just skip that and hope it's not there, because if it's there, I lost anyway. Let's just do Pyramid Fairy to Catfish instead.
Well, it ended up working out for both of you, but isn't it funny how like you always, when you're thinking about where your opponent is, you always kind of imagine that they've done the best possible thing. But yeah, apparently nothing was there, not even some swords. We found all of those, so.
Yeah, I somehow missed out on 2 of the swords. I don't know how.
Well, one of them was Catfish, so Kohrek you both did very similar things, going Hype Cave, then Pyramid. But then the major divergence, of course, was Dracarys, your decision to go to Pod right afterward, whereas Kohrek just went up to Catfish and then save and quit from there. So there was a sword there. And then there was another sword on the Green Pendant turn-in on Sahasrahla.
Yeah, so 2 pretty terrible locations.
Yeah, I never managed to check either of the 2 because they were so out of the way for me.
Yeah, and it's too bad you didn't get a hint for them either, because those are both locations that you often find a hint for.
Cool. So I guess, do either of you have anything else to say about this seed? We were talking a bit earlier about the next race, which is going to be on Friday. Any worries or any hopes going into that Key Sanity?
For my end, I enjoy the All Legends Key Sanity. It's been my pick, at least something similar to this for all of my choices, and I've done well in those, so I'm just gonna stick with it and see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
I was just gonna ask Dracarys, are you confident in your Key Sanity routing and fishing?
I wouldn't say I'm confident, but I know how to play Key Sanity at least. I just hope we don't get an Aga Tower small key as go mode somewhere deep in GT again.
Yeah. Yeah, all dungeons Key Sanity is especially interesting because, yeah, Aga Tower is just something you typically never want to enter. Okay, well, I guess that about does it for us. Want to wish you both the best in your future race or races.
Just want to thank both of you for commentating and everybody out there for watching, and Drac, of course, for being a great competitor. Really look forward to Friday's match.
Yep. And shout outs to Speed Gaming and A Link to the Past Randomizer channels. Shout outs to our tracker this race, Phantom Black Ice. Shout outs to my co-commentator Kern. And shout outs to everybody watching. You know, it's always good to have an audience for these types of things. Yeah, so we we have one other race that's actually started over on Speed Gaming 2. Farame versus In the Name of DT. That is another Randomizer, but this time it's an expert Randomizer. And that means the limitations on what you get is pretty significant. You don't get a lot of health, you don't get any safeties. And it's just a pure test of skill. And considering it's Randomizer, that can lead to some hilarious situations.
So pretty much same thing we just saw, but a bit harder.
A bit,
Yeah.
in quotation marks.
Yeah, exactly. With two very good runners, Farame and In the Name of DT. Farame, at least I think, I thought I saw In the Name of DT as well, watching this race. So maybe just reminding themselves what All Dungeons is, or just maybe wanted to have some fun before the stress of a tournament race. But both very wonderful. Go over there and check them out.
All right. So yeah, that does it for us. Again, thanks to our runners, and just keep watching these races. They're good times. And see you next mission.
Hey, everybody.